The following program was produced by an independent community producer. The opinions expressed do not necessarily reflect those of the ECAT staff or board of directors.
Come to you from underneath a peach blossom. It's time for an episode of BeAuSm. Find positivity throughout your life and work. Just like our mascot rooster, Steve the Jerk.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the BeAuSm Podcast. I'm your host, Joshua Peach, with our master of merchandise extraordinaire and co-host, friend, and just all-around awesome guy, Mr. Mark Resnick. Welcome back, Mark.
Thanks, Josh.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Yeah, it's we don't have to tell them how long it's been.
I can tell you, it's December. Like they can see it. It's listed. The last episode was recorded with Santa Claus on December 1st, unfortunately. So we'll give a quick update. I went to Alaska after that episode, landed December 6th, and I got sick. I got really sick, actually, for quite some time and lost my voice for over 6 weeks. You thought I was going to die, I think.
You were banged up.
Yeah, you were a little worried about that.
Quite banged up.
Yeah, all you kept saying is, can we just get back and do the podcast? I'm like, I can't talk. I don't know what to do. It's just like he runs a tight ship. I bring him on. I do 110 or something episodes. I bring him on. He's my co-host, and all of a sudden he's cracking the whip on me. So, but no, this is really kind of the first chance we had. I've been on the road 22 days. We'll talk a little bit about that. You came on the road with me a little bit for some road trips. And we're just excited to be back, and this is really cool. So we're doing 2 episodes. This episode is going to air after the other episode we're going to do in an hour from now. So this is kind of weird. We're like in a time warp. We're ahead of ourselves. But our guest today is very special guy. Very special guy to me. I met in 2017 through LinkedIn. He was announcing the release of his book, From Paralysis to Purpose. We had mutual connection. Steve Hibbard from Concordia University put a comment on his post about his book, and I'm like, if he's friends with Steve, he's got to be a good guy. I ordered a copy of his book, never looked at it until late October, early November of 2018. I'm on the ferry to Nantucket, and I had the book in the bag, and I started reading it, and all of a sudden I found myself putting all sorts of stick-it notes inside of it. And I go, oh my God, the paralysis part is he's paralyzed. It wasn't a figure of words because he's also a basketball coach. So my stupidity, I'm like, how's he a basketball coach?
I mean, Dave,
yeah.
I mean, he didn't even look.
I didn't even look at the.
It's a wheelchair in the front
I didn't.
cover.
Listen, I didn't.
Do you see what I'm up against here, Dave?
It's a lot. It's a lot. And so I read the book, and I'm like, you did all this stuff. You were a basketball coach. You got onto the Duke basketball coaching staff and shagging balls and getting people Gatorade, doing whatever you could do, just knocking on the door to just try to get in to just have a chance, and all these things. And I was like, you got to get on my podcast. Never met, didn't know how far Milwaukee was to Madison, but asked him on a rainy Sunday night to come and sit in on one of my first podcasts in the busiest, what should have been the quietest Starbucks, but the busiest Starbucks in the United States, and did a podcast and immediately became great friends. And then he came on the podcast again in 2020 when I had all of my guests up to that point during the COVID. And then we did an updated version. So I think we did a catch up after the Martha's Vineyard trip, I think, right? So without further ado, I want to introduce my friend, and then we'll get into how he's your friend, and then how we all are friends. None other than my friend from Milwaukee, Mr. David Cooks.
Well, Peach, that was a long introduction. That's all I got. That's all I got to say.
Well, I mean, I wanted to kill a little bit of time here. To keep it going.
Listen, Dave. Unlike your professional podcasts, we're a little bit loosey goosey on the
a lot
on the scripts.
Yeah, Mark.
Did you say professional podcasts? Is that what you said?
Yeah.
Okay, so David Cooks,
oh boy,
longtime friend, longtime listener, author extraordinaire. He has an amazing podcast. So I'm just going to get this right off the top. The book, obviously, Getting Undressed, Paralysis to Purpose. And his podcast is Paralysis to Purpose, the podcast. David, your podcast is phenomenal. I don't know why you keep downplaying it. Your guests are amazing. It's produced well. The only thing I'm going to give you a hard time is when we got to get those sponsors on board, man.
Yeah.
People should be jumping all over this.
Yeah.
You know? Well, I appreciate all that, and I do appreciate the quality of the guests and stuff that we've had on our podcast, and the diversity of stories and ideas and stuff that keeps it interesting for me as well. So I'm trying to get Peach on there, but since you can't, do you tell him what he has to do now, Mark? What's up? How does that work?
Have your people talk to my people.
Oh, okay. There you
go. He'll be on there within the month. Sure.
Mark has some influence. I think we left it at there's stuff we need to talk about that I might not be ready to talk about. I think was the last time you and I had a little bit of a deep conversation about some stuff. And I think as we get closer to the book and some of the other stuff that's going on, I think that'll be the timing will be right. To get uncomfortable, to get undressed on David Cook's book.
Yeah.
So
Dave, as I'm sure Josh has told you, we're starting his book, his 5-year journey to write a book, tell his story and to tell the BeAuSm story. So he's starting to open up quite a bit. I think he's almost ready to be on your podcast. I do.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what little bit I do know is a lot.
Yeah.
And so it's I'm just going on what I know. What I can only imagine what it is that I don't know, that makes him the complete person that he is, So kudos to you, to the both of you, for getting that book up and running and having some transparency in the process.
Yeah, well, we just need to get you on the road for a few trips, and you'll get a lot out of me. So that's what Mark got going to Canada and Nashville this month, which was eye-opening, and I think we had more progress in the last couple of weeks than the last year and a half. I mean, you dialed in a lot of the putting the pieces together, which was amazing. It was really fascinating to kind of watch how we work together. We were working separately and trying to, like, he'd ask me a question and my ADD would go and I'd start talking about something completely different. He'd reel me back in, and then all of a sudden there's this whole diagram or mind mapping that he was doing, and it was like, wow, this really is putting together and making sense. It's gonna be pretty awesome. So
it's gonna be awesome.
Yeah,
it's gonna be absolutely awesome.
So we're gonna get into you, because we want to get caught up with you, because you had to in essence relive his book in the last 2 years. You had to kind of read your own. I think you said something like he had to read his own book.
Yeah, right? Well, and to be fair, I was listening to your podcast, Dave, and you were talking openly to one of your guests, and you said, I had to eat swallow my own medicine.
Yeah.
And so let's talk. Let's just back it up a little bit, and maybe with what you're comfortable with. I know the last couple of years have been challenging from a health perspective for you. So if you're willing to share some of your story and bring us up to speed, and that'd be great if you're okay with that.
I'm good with that. That's why I'm writing another book, because I need to be good with it. So over the last 18 to 24 months, it actually began late in 2019, but accelerated in the last 2 years. I ended up just having a number of significant health challenges that started with sepsis, which I thought initially was just the flu. And then from there were some complications, which resulted in some surgery and a bunch of bed rests just in time for COVID. So I get through that process, and whatever momentum I had gained from the speaking world was now upside down because of COVID, and also because I was inactive. So, kind of got that back going late in 21 probably. And then in the fall of 22, I was out of town because I was going to officiate a wedding the next day. And while I was transferring from my wheelchair into my car, my femur broke, and which is just ridiculous. It turns out it had gotten infected and all this stuff. And so that began a journey from September of 22 up until now of recovering from that process, the reopening of some old wounds, and then some emergency blood clot surgery on July 4th of 2023. So when you put all those things together, it was just one blow after another over the last couple of years. And I, like you said, Mark, I had to grab my book and start looking for some words of encouragement. And when I say I had to eat my own medicine and eat my own book, it was one of those things where oftentimes when you are in a position to do what we do, and that's like, we go and speak and motivate and inspire people, they don't realize the challenges that you have. They think that you're immortal, that you can handle it all and you don't need any help, and all those types of things, which is, it's not a bad thing, it's just not a real thing. Yeah. And when you get into these situations, you need phone calls and text messages and hugs and kisses and all the things that everyone else needs when they're going through things. With your faith or without faith, however you go through it, you still need those basic human things. And so that's what the last couple of years have been like. I haven't been able to work, which is really bizarre. I want to do something. I remember when the first day I was able to drive again, I think it was this past October or September, something like that. I was so excited just to do something that I drove around, and I almost went to Culver's. I didn't want anything. I just wanted to go through the drive-through but I was like, they might think I'm weird. And so I didn't do it, but it was one of those moments where you just appreciate everything.
Yeah.
And I say it all the time, it's a great day to be alive, and it really is. And I have such a gratitude for everything. Just being able to drive again, going to the grocery store and realizing inflation is real because I hadn't been there in 2 years. All of those types of things are have been part of this process. And I'm just glad I'm coming out on the other side.
Yeah.
Yeah, it must have been so weird though for you, because you've for the audience who people who haven't read the book yet. By the way, it's an audiobook too, right, Dave?
Yes, it is.
Okay, great. Yeah, that's important for a lot of our listeners.
He has a voice for audiobook. I think he might have to do my audiobook and just.
I'd love to do yours. I did mine, believe it or not.
Yeah.
Yeah. But so you've been in a wheelchair since you were 14, I believe is right. 14 or 16?
15.
15 years old. Obviously you've had a successful career, you've coached, you've thrived in business. And then, so it's been tough, right? And you've put it all together. And then all of a sudden, these last 2 years with COVID on top of it, it was a big setback, obviously, and very hard to deal with. I
think what was most difficult about this past episode was it affected my independence. That to me, all these, for all of my life, I've been able to do and go and have a pretty good amount of independence. Well, these last 18 to 24 months, I remember when I met Peach for dinner.
Oh, I was going to go into that one. Yeah, I was going to go into that one. Well, let's step back. You were going to meet me for dinner before that, and you couldn't even get transportation. Like you weren't even in a position where you could be transported to come.
That's
so
right.
I try to force them to meet. Yeah, anytime you're in Milwaukee, if you get a chance and you're in Milwaukee, anywhere within like 100 miles of Milwaukee, if you go out to eat with Cooks, it's an experience. There is not a restaurant that has a person in it that doesn't know Cooks, and you don't get a cookie the size of your head or something. You always get something with Cooks. So yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry, but yeah, there was a time really before that. Yeah.
Yeah. And so that was March 23rd of last year that you and I went. Yeah. And that was my first time in a restaurant since 2020 or something like that. And so the whole independence thing was the most difficult. I think there were a couple of things. Being alone and being dependent. Those were the two things that were most difficult. Mm-hmm. You're by yourself. Your wife's got to go to work. What do you do all day? And you're not your mind is not quite in a place, at least mine wasn't, to be producing things or getting things accomplished. I was just trying to fight through and make sure I was going to be okay. So that was tough. And the transportation thing was amazingly difficult because I ended up having to understand what it means to take public transportation for people who have real serious need, and to ride to spend a whole day to go to one place, because you got to pick people up and drop them off. I remember coming to Peach was in town, and I said, "Hey, I'll meet you at 4:00." I think I said.
Yeah.
And so
I thought it was an early bird. I think he knew he was going to be a while.
so I was like, so they said that we'll get you at 2:30 or 2:45, something like that. And they're always pretty good. Well, the person didn't show up till like 4:15. And I was like, I have an appointment and it's going to cost me millions of dollars if you don't get me there. That's what I told him. I said, this is a big deal. It may not be a big deal to you, but this is millions of dollars. I need to get there. Let's go. And so he got us there, and you saw, I mean, you had to get out of the, it was just a lot of extra that went along with this. And so I just, I'm just grateful to be able to be back and able to do things again, because that really is hard.
Yeah. Yeah. And also let's just say it. It's hard for those around you. It's hard for your wife, and it's hard for everybody. It just is. It's just a different mental space.
Yeah. And I think that's one of the things that a lot of people don't recognize, is that the ripple effect of things that happen to you, especially if you have family and friends and people that love you, it not only does it impact you, but it impacts them in ways in which they have to try to deal with it and try to figure out where they can fit in this to help you move forward, and also to help themselves.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Moe's Irish Pub. That's where
That's
we
it.
went. Moe's Irish Pub.
Irish.
And it was I got the picture right here of us that out in front. And it was, what was interesting from that was, any opportunity I get to see you, I try to take. I try to, I'll go out of my way and fly into Milwaukee to see you. And if it works, great. And if it doesn't, that's okay too. But you were, it was 4:00, and I was at the bar sitting there, and it was like 4:15, and you're like, hey, they're just getting here. And then there was another delay, and then something else. And your texts were frustrated, but when you got into the restaurant, you were like elated. You were like, and I didn't know that was the first time you had been out to eat in so long. And you got there and you was like, hey man, what's happening? Sorry, I'm late. And like, I would have been swearing a lot. I would have been like, I can't believe this craziness. And I told the guy to stay outside and wait for me, because, I told him it was worth millions of dollars and all that other stuff. And he didn't care all that much. But it was really amazing to watch the transition that you went from, kind of probably with anxiety and frustration, to we sat down and it wasn't 30 seconds. And I think a lot of your stuff is the people that you surround yourself with, because every single time I've been with you in Milwaukee, and it's obvious that you are Milwaukee, it's not a minute. And there's something, so I don't even know, what was he? He was the manager?
Yeah. Kyle. Kyle was the manager.
So I swear, it's like he sets me up. I feel like he pays people, because like we go to the table and he walks right over. He's like, Mr. Cooks. He starts talking to him, and all of a sudden, Cooks just shifts and he's talking to him, and he's like, Kyle would never know that David had all this stuff for the last 2 years. He, like, just like you say, people think that we got it all good all over the place, and we don't. And he shifted, and next thing you know, Kyle brings over, honest to God, the cookie was this big.
It was crazy.
Didn't charge us. He's like, hey, why don't you have this dessert? But then we go to breakfast a couple months ago to this place that's got robots driving the stuff around, and we go in and we go check in to get a table. And this guy looks over, he goes, hey, Cooks. And he starts talking, and I'm just sitting there. I'm just the guest, right? I'm not even, I'm just going to let Cooks do his thing. Well, it turns around, this guy's the barbecue king of Milwaukee, right?
Pop's barbecue. So, and I didn't know he was going to be there. Okay. I didn't know that. And then we ran into a kid that I coached, and I didn't coach him. Actually, did I coach him? Yeah, I think so. But he was in my class anyway. Yeah. And I hadn't seen him in eons. He played college basketball and got drafted by the major leagues and stuff. And so there was someone else there. My wife says the same thing. She's, who'd you see today when you were out?
Yeah.
I said,
not what you eat. Who'd you see?
Yeah, exactly. Who'd you see? I'm like, no, nobody. I just went to the grocery store.
Yeah.
You know,
That's kind of the amazing, and I know that it's going to be extremely difficult at times, especially when the alone thing is tough. And that's something that I have. People often tell me, they're like, you can't be in a car by yourself. Like I have to, I call people. I'm like, I don't, and I don't, and maybe it's, I don't like getting alone in my own thoughts or whatever it is, but I always feel like I need to have someone.
You like to fill the space. Yeah.
I like to fill the space.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I can totally get that loneliness feeling. And then the dependency piece, man, that's a tough one.
That's tough, man. That alone thing is interesting because I just love people.
Yeah.
I mean, I and the whole thing about being on a stage and presenting and talking, that's all that interaction and all of that energy is what I thrive from. That's what I would live off of. And for that to be gone, it wasn't like I didn't have a purpose, but I sure couldn't touch it right then.
Yeah.
You know, and so that's something different. And your mind you have to get your mind under subjection because it will take you all kind of places.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just want to dive into that for a little bit because like what did you do? Like how did you handle that? You know, what were some of the steps you took? I mean, I know your faith is so strong, but there are times when you need a little bit more than that too to dig deep. So
like I interrupted his faith on a lot of Sundays. I can tell you that, especially during COVID. I didn't realize Sunday was such a busy day for it. It seemed like every time I called, he was watching the mass.
I'm like, hey man, we got church going on. I'll call you right back. Well, you know, I think a couple of things that I had to do was release people and not have the expectations of them being me, because I give and I love to treat people the way I love to treat people. And then when it's my turn, I'm thinking, well, they're going to do that back, but they're not me. And so that's not fair of me to expect them to respond the way I would. I really wrestled with that because I had to forgive myself for holding them accountable for something that not necessarily they should have to be accountable for. That was the first step in kind of coming out of this fog, because then I was like, okay, that's how it is. And it's not because people don't care about you. It's not because they're not interested or don't love you. It's just because life places so many demands and expectations on everyone that it can get out of, I mean, it happens and they get busy and they can't see you. That was my very first step psychologically on releasing others so that I could move forward. I still looked out the door and I still was checking my phone, in hopes, but it was a different kind of thing. So once I kind of got through that, I tell you, my wife has been spectacular through all of this. And Mark knows, I mean, she switched to caregiver in like a 24-hour period, which is not easy for her to do. She will pass out at the sight of a needle. Sure. Right. Yeah. Right. And for her to make this sacrifice over this period, I mean, it was pretty serious. I mean, she had to miss work and a bunch of things. And I understood then what love was really like. I mean, I knew she loved me and all that, but this was the demonstration that was next level. And that helped me because I remember, this is crazy. Last year during Lent, she left a Post-it note every day somewhere in the house for me. And I didn't realize what was happening initially. I said, you left this here. She would put different things about me and our relationship and how we're doing, and you're going to be okay, for 40 days in a row. That's awesome. That right there, what else can I ask for? And so I began to get a different kind of personal touch from her that I wasn't getting from others. I opted now to, okay, I guess I should write a book or do something. So I had to go back to what I do. I think so often when you have to begin again, people think you have to be brand new to start over, and you don't. You have to take what you have and reshape it, remarket it. And so that helped also. I do think that seeing the progress that I was making and I still have the home care same nurses I had during this whole process, and to watch their reaction to the improvement. I mean, their statements are like, I've never seen anything like this. This is unbelievable. I don't know what's going to, you're really doing well. When you hear that over and over, and they don't have to make that up, because they see plenty of things that aren't going well. So all of these things begin to add to my confidence and my ability to kind of start over. And then lastly, I did begin to get a few visitors, one here, one there, a phone call here, a phone call there. And it just made a big difference.
Yeah.
But it started with my mind shift, with a perspective change.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's great.
Yeah. I'll tell you, on the first thing, and I know that I failed in some ways. So one of the things that I do when I say that I can't be alone when I drive, I have triggers in my brain. It's very strange. My brain's a strange place.
Mm-hmm.
It's brain game. And one of my triggers is when I go to the butcher to call Cooks.
Mm-hmm.
And at one point in time, for a while, I would get in my car to go to the butcher, and Cooks would call me as if he had GPS. Like, he called me before I did. And there was like this period of like a couple of months that I hadn't gone to the butcher, so I hadn't called because I've been traveling so much. And this was last week, and I'm driving, and I get a phone call, and it's Cooks, and he says, "Are you in Wisconsin?" I was like, "What in the world?" And because I didn't think that I put a post on social media. And I said, "Yeah, I was in Wisconsin, but I didn't, it was my schedules got all screwed up this month. So I ended up going to Madison and not Milwaukee." And I'm like, "Oh boy, here I go." But it was really good that I did that. And here's the one piece I like about social media is that touch allows you to continue to touch, and how important that is. And one of the things I can remember Cook saying a long time ago, he's like, "Hey man, you just call and just check on me." And I was like, "Yeah, you're my friend. That's what I do." And then he started to do it. And that's important. And I think you touch on some things, which is life does get busy. Life is extremely busy, with whether you got kids and job, or family or friends or sickness or whatever. That vital importance of keeping up with folks, and especially when you know that someone's got something going on. A lot of times people think, maybe I won't call him, I haven't talked to him in a while, maybe they'll be upset with me, or maybe whatever. No, just hit them with a call, check in on them, say hello.
The check-ins are huge for you.
Yeah.
That's your rule of three, and checking in with people. And Dave, with the second book I wrote about caregiving, it's so important to check in on the patient, obviously, but what's often overlooked is to check in on the caregiver.
Mm-hmm.
And I've just realized now that I did a horrible job checking in with Mary Pat. I was so focused on checking in with you that I don't think I did a great job checking in on Mary Pat, who probably needed maybe a little bit even more love and touch-ins than, so the point is we fail often to check in with the caregivers as well.
Yeah, well, I think that oftentimes it's not, I said it before, we focus on the person that's experiencing it directly, but we don't focus at all on the people connected to that person and how they're dealing with it. And I think that's kind of how it goes sometime. But for Mary Pat, I know she talked to her mom, and she was always talking with someone about the situation with the teachers at school, so there were outlets for her, which was important to me, because it was a lot to do and to handle. And, when you haven't worked for 2 years, so you haven't had any income coming in, and you have doctor bills adding up and other bills adding up, I didn't want her to even have to think about that. You just do your thing, we'll be okay. We'll be okay. Because it's just, because we didn't need to have that added to the circumstances, added to the situation. Let's just get healthy, get through this, and everything else will be okay.
I'm literally just getting this conversation, and I'm getting the message, the shirts that I asked for you to be on the lookout for. And this whole conversation just like struck a chord, because I've got a friend of mine that his wife was diagnosed with cancer. And from the time that he told me this to just now, I asked how his wife was, and I don't know that I asked him how he is.
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
And that's important. It's team sport.
Yeah.
And I'm just sitting here, I'm just like, I'm tearing up going, man, I don't know that I took the time to ask. And it's always been about, and it should, you got to figure out how to have that balance of things, because it's, while there's someone that's going through it physically, there's someone that's going through it mentally, that's helping them, that everybody else is gone, that we have to be mindful of. And like I said, I'm just getting the mess. I told you, look out for the email I just got, and I'm like, well, if that isn't timing, I don't know what the heck is. And I want to step back before you go, because before you say what you're going to say, hold that thought, because you've referenced his wife. You've made a couple of references. Not everybody has gone on the Wayback Machine and listened to my episodes with David or the episode with you. I met David in 2018. I met Mark completely. I didn't know David had any other family other than his wife. I think that's all I knew for a number of years. I think that's about as far as we went on the family tree. And I met you through Jesse Itzler's Build Your Life Resume program. You had launched your book March 13th of 2022. 2021. I'm sorry, 2021.
22. You're right. 22.
You're going to learn I'm a numbers guy. My other podcast, Paul Anastasi, he'll tell you, I get the numbers down.
Yep.
March 13th, 2022, your 50th birthday. Launched your first book, 10 Days with Dad. You put it on the private listserv. I said, hey man, bought a couple of copies of your book. I'm going through something similar with my dad. And we went back and forth a little bit. This was April, May of 2022. And then in August of 2022, I'm listed in a Cook's masterful, amazing podcast. And he says, on today's episode, I'd like to welcome Mark Resnick. And I immediately, because it's a recorded and it wasn't live, I knew I could call him. I called Cooks and I said, hey, how do you know Mark Resnick? And he says, how do you know Mark Resnick? I said, I don't. I don't. I've been trying to get to know him. I bought his books. I want him to start doing some of my merchandise stuff. Who the heck? How do you know him? You're in Milwaukee. He's in Walpole, Massachusetts. And Cooks just says, he's my brother-in-law. And that caused me to reach out to Mark and say that we had a mutual friend. We met in Panera Bread afterwards. We became immediately trusted him a lot because of you, Cooks. And just because, Mark's a good guy, you can tell he's a good guy. And the rest has been history. We've been working amazingly together for the last year and a half on a bunch of different things. But this tie of people was very, very natural, and not David saying, hey, you should meet Mark. Yeah. You should do this. But you guys are related. So
my wife and his wife are sisters. That's we're pretty. So, and I've had a lot of meals with David on vacation. And this is one of those all you can eat, dinner thing. Oh yeah, you can have 6 appetizers. When Dave and I sit next to each other, I mean, we're putting that kitchen to work, aren't we, Dave?
Yeah. Oh well, and what are you getting? You're gonna get that? Okay, I'm gonna get this one over here. And if you like that, I'll order one of those. You want some of this one? It's just crazy.
It's crazy.
It's just crazy.
Food. Yeah,
and it's so good though.
Oh yeah, no, it's you dig in.
Yeah. Well, we've missed you. I mean, hopefully this summer it's to turn the corner here. It sounds like things are going pretty good. The health wise.
Things are getting there. I think I have another appointment coming up on the 4th of March. And then we'll see. Some things just take time. My health is great. Everything. You just got a couple one really small wound that's really healing up fast. And so we'll see where it goes. Like I said, I know I said it earlier, but for 18 months, I went to hospitals and doctors' offices, and that was it.
Yeah.
So to now go every 6 weeks or whatever it is, man, that's and I can drive. That's doable.
Yeah.
That's quite doable.
Yeah. Let's do a quick pivot. Dave, I know you're working on a new book. If you could tease us a little bit and tell us where that's going, and then. What about the speaking? Are you almost ready to try to start booking some things and getting back on the road?
Yeah, let's start with the speaking thing first. I've done a few virtual things already this year. I've got something booked next week for someone that it'll be streamed to like 4,000 different people, employees, and that kind of stuff, and CEOs and the like. So we'll see where it goes from there, and then we'll begin that process. I think I'm really close to being traveling again, and I'm really targeting 2025 to really dive into that, just knowing where things are now. So, I'll take what I can get for now and try to build it up for then. As for the book or books, I'm working on a devotional called 52 Reasons to Live. And it'll be obviously 52 weeks, something each week, scripture-based that encourages people. That'll be clearly more of a faith-based book, but anybody can read my books. I mean, so, and then the other book deals with these last 2 years, 2.5 years, and it's called Derailed. What do you do? What do you do what do you do when life happens? So, I should probably send you guys my the draft of the first chapter. I think you'll find it very good. So we're just working on that, and hope to get at least the Derailed book done here by June. The other book, 52 Reasons to Live, won't take me that long to do. I have the outline already done for that, and the different concepts. And so just coming up with short stories, to go along with that to make it a devotional would be good. So that could probably be later in 2024. So I'm excited about those. It's a challenge. It is as much a challenge for me to write as it is you, Peach.
Yeah.
Yes.
I would debate that. I would definitely debate that. Yeah.
Okay. I'm just telling you. So it's been it's been weird because it wasn't really a priority to write a book. I was trying to figure out what I can do to earn some income and just kind of get back into the workspace. So writing a book was not, I knew I needed to, I just had not, I had trouble prioritizing my time for it, which is very interesting. So the one thing I will say is I know now the importance of discipline and keeping to your time slot. So in the morning I'm trying to learn how to day trade and stuff. So from 8:30 to 10:30, that's it. If I haven't made any trades or anything, shut it down. All right. Then that allows for me, from 6:30 to 8 o'clock, I like to meditate and pray and that kind of stuff, eat breakfast. Then I have the block to trading, and then I have something for writing and whatever else we have going on. So having to stick to that has been challenging, but it's not as challenging when you don't have anything else to do.
Yeah. No, blocking off that time is huge, right? That's all your focus is going to be, is that trading or prayer or meditation.
That's what Mark did to me when I initially started writing. He said I had to block off a half an hour and just that, put that on your calendar, shut everything off for that half an hour. And that's hard.
It is.
Yeah. It's really hard.
Yeah.
I mean, what I need is what do you mark your master
merchandise? Master merchandise. Yeah.
Yeah. You need a master writer.
Yeah. Well, he is, man.
Dave, send me your chapters. I'm always willing to look and edit and look them over for you.
I know. I want you to write them.
Yeah.
Well, take a number, man. I mean, I've got enough work for 5 years.
You got 2 or 3 more. I've had 2 people this week that have said, "Can I get your information?"
Well, I mean, I've had 2 books in 2 years, and I feel badly because I haven't even finished marketing the first book.
Right.
Never mind the second book.
Well,
and I'm already onto the third book.
There's not a lot of money in there's very few books that actually make money from the book, right? It's
make enough money to sustain you.
To sustain you. Yeah, you have to do other stuff, right? So that was the Mark didn't give me a pass because I knew you cooks when I met him, and we met in Panera Bread, and we sit down, and we hadn't even known each other 30 seconds. He goes, "All right, why do you want to write the book?" And I said, "Well, I want to write a book because when I speak for an hour, and people often say I'm not done listening, and that they want to hear more, or they want to be able to go back and pick up a chapter, because that's really what our speaking is, right? Our speaking is just chapters of our our story, of our life, of examples of what have you, that make you who you are and make you think who you are, of who you are. And so he just looks at me and goes, good, because if you told me it was to make money, I wouldn't have anything to do with you. And I said, oh, that's a good intro. So I guess we're not going to make any money on this book.
No. No, Dave knows I want to make money, right, Dave? We all want to make money. I want you to make money off the book, but it can't be the sole reason.
No, I think we are going to make.
We're going to make money.
Yeah, we're going to make money.
Oh yeah, and you should. I mean, you've got the Merchandise King, and you got a great story, and I mean, you speak to thousands and thousands and thousands of people. I mean, that's book sales right there.
I'll sell at least 4. Yeah, my mom pre-ordered. I didn't even have it yet. Got my kids lined up. We took their allowance and put towards. Four people at least bought books. No, it's man, I'll tell you, it's great to see you, and it's great to see you smiling, and it's great because you and I have we've seen each other now. Well, when was Martha's Vineyard?
That was September. That was September. That was September 8th and 9th of 22.
Okay.
So, and it's interesting. I knew that, I guess I was more sick than I thought.
Yeah.
Because the doctors gave me permission to come out on that trip to Martha's Vineyard. And we were still treating a wound at that point. Turned out to be E. coli, which we didn't know, which got into the femur. But it's interesting getting in and out of your car, getting in and out of those beds at hotels and stuff. I could have broke my femur on the in the Northeast. I am grateful that I did not.
Yeah.
And when I talk about, like, next week when I speak to this group, we're going to start with a gratitude exercise. 30 seconds, write down one thing you're grateful for. And we're going to come back to it at the end. If you don't know, if you can't point to something to be grateful for, then think about something that didn't happen that you can be grateful for. And I'm grateful that I did not break my femur while I was on the East Coast, away from my wife, away from my doctors, all that kind of stuff. I mean, I was in Illinois, but I was an hour away from home when it happened. That's a little different. So, you picked me up, and
I'm grateful I didn't forget the seat of your wheelchair at Martha's Vineyard when I dropped you off at Logan Airport. So
that is so funny. We drove the whole way from Martha's Vineyard to the airport, and he's sweating. I didn't know this. He's sweating, thinking like, where did I leave his cushion on top of the car? I had no idea he was talking about this because I had the cushion.
Yeah.
And so he was so relieved when we got. I'm like, what's up, man? Dude, I thought I didn't know where the cushion was. Like, what?
Yeah. When you talk about perspective and you talk about things, like, so Cooks is a whole nother episode. We might even talked about it in the last episode that Cooks was on, but he had a nightmare of a trip going from Milwaukee to Martha's Vineyard, all the way down to getting the Hyannis and not being able to get on a plane because they wouldn't let him board because he's in a wheelchair, and it was a small Cessna. And so he took a bus to Woods Hole, which is about an hour, then gets on a ferry, gets out there, gets in a van, and then gets into a hotel that's probably not ADA compliant, right. and he just had a heck of a time. And I talked to him and I was like, hey man, what's going on? He says, I think I'm going to leave early, catch a flight to Logan. And I said, well, how are you going to get back? Well, I'm going to go to the van. I'm going to take the van. I'm going to get on the ferry. I'm going to get to the bus station. I'm going to take a bus. I'm going to go to Logan. I'm going to get on a plane to get on another plane to get to my car to get home. And I'm like, man, I'll come pick you up. It's been too long. I haven't seen you in a while. And so, I got a big truck. Got a big truck, and it's hard for me to even get in and out sometimes. And so I said, I'll come pick you up tomorrow. And he said, hey, the lower the car, the better. And I was like, what? He says, I can't get into trucks and SUVs. So I borrowed my mother's station wagon type car just so that I could get down there to give him. And then I had no idea, like, that process was just getting the car. The next process was when I got there and I watched him get into the car. And then I go, all right, well, how am I going to get this wheelchair into the car? And I didn't realize it was like a transformer. The thing comes in like 7 or 8 different pieces and parts, and he knows it all, and he's telling me what to do, and I'm feeling like a good friend doing it. And I didn't realize that when he got into the car, he took the seat cushion and put it down by his legs, and I'm taking all the pieces apart, trying to make sure I do all this stuff. And we literally, it was like a 2-hour drive, and we stopped and got honeydew coffees, and we drive and we talking the whole way. And the whole time he's talking and I'm trying to keep everything together. And I'm like, shoot, did I leave that cushion? Where is that cushion? I remember putting that cushion in the car. Where did the cushion go? Is the cushion someplace? And looking around and doing all this stuff. And he's hiding, and he hit it on me. I'm convinced he hit it on me as a to do. But that was, for me, that was a very, at my mid 40s, to have that experience and not be able to really understand all that goes into what it takes for cooks to get out and do what he does. It was one of those things I was like, wow. And it was just an added level of admiration. I mean, I joke with you and I'm like, hey man, we're going to need to get you going so we can fly private, right? Because make it easier.
Let's go. Let's go.
Let's make it easier.
I want to be on the stage, the three of us.
Yeah.
I mean, we have different messages, but kind of the themes are overlapping. So I want to make that happen.
So I haven't told you this.
Here we go.
Or I haven't told cooks this either. But for our book launch, when it happens later this year, I want to have the book launch at the Oaks Ames Memorial Hall, which is right down the street from here. I got a free rental.
Okay.
Got it in an auction. I think I got an auction. I got a free rental in any case. And this is a historic H.H. Richardson building with an 1880s stage, and it holds about 200 people. My plan is to have me and you, obviously, speak, and some others. Ralston's already committed to coming, and Cooks doesn't know this yet, but he's coming because he's going to have to come. He told me the other day he was at 98%. I was going to tell him about this before this podcast. He says at 98%, I need to get a little closer. I need a little more than 100%. But when this happens, we're going to have a number of the people that are in the book, a part of the book, that are part of the life, that are going to do this thing. So be on standby, cooks, because we're going to be ready. And then we are going to figure out how to do more, because this is pretty dynamic. This is a pretty cool, amazing story of the three of us that we could share on stage. And Mark's right. Couldn't ask for, three kind of more different people in so many different ways, but come together and get along and are able to make a difference. So you just keep getting better, because we're going to give you a little bit of time while we write the book. But that's my brain story right there. I just came up with it the other day. Ralston called me. We talked for an hour, and I said, hey man, this is what I want to do. This is going to be great.
Hey, let's make it happen. And about the private jet. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. Well, we got to have a massive pre-release, which Mark is, he's good at getting book sponsors. I never even knew there was such a thing as a book sponsor until I read Mark's 10 Days with Dad and saw all these people that pre-buy books, right?
Yeah. They sponsor the book and they pre-sales.
That's pretty awesome.
Yes. See, I didn't have any of that. I don't know anything about selling books.
Well,
yeah, it's harder than writing them. That's for sure. Right?
Yeah.
Don't you think? Writing is hard.
Yeah.
But selling the book is, man, that's hard.
It's a lot. And I've been fortunate to have, done well, with the book. I don't know what we sold. I don't know, 3,000 copies or something. I don't even know. And which is way more than most people get to get to sell. So, but it's a lot of work. Thankfully, I had a platform of speaking and now the podcast to help to talk about that and to be a guest on a podcast. I mean, that's one of my goals for this year, is to be more of a guest. I'm still interviewing people, but I need to be on the other side of the mic now for a little bit. Part of it is reinventing myself, reintroducing the world to who I am, that kind of stuff. So it's all good though.
Well, I'm going to give companies an inside line on something that's a great idea, especially if they're in the Milwaukee area. Because I did this. What do we do? 200 books, cooks, something like that?
It was something like that. Yeah, it was over time.
Yeah, so we bought 200 of Cook's books. It's got a nice ring to it, Cook's books. We bought 200 of his books. We didn't have a booth. We just had a table.
Yeah.
And we had Cooks there, and anybody that walked by, you talk about booth candy.
Yeah.
He sits there and he smiles and he throws out, hey, you want a copy of my book? And it was conversations and lead opportunities from conversations with people. He knocked it out of the park and was able to give 200 people the opportunity to put some different perspective on things, which was really cool. So if you're a company and you're looking for a great idea and maybe it's Cooks, maybe it's not. I would suggest Cooks, buying a bunch of their books and have them come sit in your booth and sign the book and write stuff and talk about what the story is. It's a great idea. It's a great way to do things.
Absolutely. And consistent with who you are, of course, you put me in a position to have an opportunity, and I always am appreciative of those.
And we had a good dinner too.
Of course. I mean, the food is extra. Food is excellent.
Yeah.
It's never a bad meal.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, let's definitely plug the book. I don't know if Adam, can you see this okay? Is that a good?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Mark doesn't know which camera to look at.
I really don't.
He's used to be on the seat. Yeah.
So we go over there. Okay. Yeah. Getting Undressed from Paralysis to Purpose by David Cooks. And you'll find it on Amazon and right in your website. David Cooks Speaks?
Yeah. Yep. Website, Amazon, probably other places too, but yeah.
So check out the book, and also definitely check out his podcast, Paralysis to Purpose, the podcast. It's really good stuff.
And I'm pretty sure I still have at least 5 copies. I think I have 10 copies. I try to always have copies of books, which I can get some more of your books. I'm so far behind with yours. I gotta get caught up. But I'll tell you what, for the next 5-star ratings and reviews we get, you get a free David Cooks book. Just email Josh at BeAuSm.com, JoshBeausm.com, Josh@BeAuSm.com. Do 5-star rating and review. Tell us you did it, and give us a name and address. We'll send you a copy of his book absolutely free, because we want you to get a feeling for what David does and get ready for his next 2 books. And we could use some more ratings and reviews, because we haven't gotten a lot lately. We're getting them trickled in, but we've managed to stay in the top 2.5% of podcasts out there. So we'll do that, and I'll get some more books on order there, David, so we can put them out. I think we've done the first episode. We had autographed books.
Ooh.
Yeah, it was early on. So
well, he's got a stack over there in the bookshelf.
Oh yeah, no, he keeps it going. Well, this has been great. We've been talking about doing this for a little while, and I think it was on one of our trips that Mark's like, we got to get Cooks on. He's had a lot going on. He's coming out on the other side, and I think the one takeaway, there's a bunch of takeaways, but one of the big takeaways for me is the people that think that people have it all together don't get it not untogether. That's not even a word, but get people that you look at and you're like, man, they got it all dialed in. They know what they're doing, and they're telling us how to do it. We don't. We're humans too, and we have challenges too and difficulties. And you've had some really tough ones. Like I said, I would have lost my stack with that bus. I would.
Yeah, man.
And you never even told. I don't even think you told me. If you did, I didn't hear it. That was the first time. What a great honor that is to be the first meal out that you've had in a number of years. That was I treated them all as an honor, but that was
that's why I was so upset that they were going to be late. I mean, because it was worth millions to me to be at that. I got to go to that thing.
Yeah, well, I mean, you kept saying you don't need to stay, and I'm like, well, the drinks are cold and it's still early. I don't normally eat dinner until 6:30, so I can keep drinking and buying the pull tabs or whatever they had there and wait it out. But that's I wasn't going to miss that. I was trying to figure out how I could get my SUV rental vehicle into a smaller car so I could come pick you up if I had to, because that wasn't an option at that point.
Yeah. Well, I'm just glad it worked out. I'm glad this worked out for all of us. It's good to see Mark. I haven't seen him in probably 2019.
Yeah,
maybe or something like that.
Certainly before COVID.
Yeah, certainly before COVID. And so it's just good to see you guys, and I celebrate your successes. You guys are doing a knockout job out there, and just keep doing what you do. Stay in your lanes. You guys will both be successful.
That's awesome.
Yeah, well, it's great that we can bounce ideas off each other too. Whether it's the books or the speaking or the businesses, it's we need to keep our circle tight.
Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, I'll be going to the butcher soon, because I'm going to be after next week. I'm home for like a month, so you'll be hearing from me.
Oh, so, fantastic! Get some ox.
So I'm going to ask him about getting it. I'm not going to get it because that's something that I'm going to have with you. I already told you that. There's things that I won't do without people, and that's going to be with you. So I'm going to tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to let Mark close this thing out because he tried to close it out before I got sick. And
did I mess it up?
Yeah, of course you did.
Yeah.
It takes a while. Cooks, you know this, right? You just can't come into these things and just knock it out of the park right out of the gate.
Listen,
it's lots of
Dave has a fancy producer, and they edit this out. We don't. Adam, do we edit this? We don't edit. We just let it fly, don't we?
No, Adam does do some.
I know we had Santa Claus, Dave. He dropped an F-bomb.
Yeah. Yep. And then we found out that ho 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 actually scares kids. So yeah. So no, we got Adam. Adam fixes stuff for us, but we don't have a staff and we don't have people that put together scripts. All the front end stuff we don't.
Unlike Dave, the two of us, we both have ADHD, so I'm bopping, I'm moving, I'm making sounds. So
Mark called me a couple hours ago. He's like, "Hey, dude, because we're doing 2 episodes. We're going to do another episode here in a minute." So he's like, "Hey, do we want to do any prep work for this?" I'm like, "Well, it's a couple hours out, man. We'll just set it up and see where it goes, and that's it. I didn't tell Cooks anything other than let's do a podcast." So works for me. So
I didn't have to prep for my brother-in-law.
Exactly.
I've read his book a couple times.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Dave. So let me practice. I'll practice with you. Listen, we just want to thank, first of all, thank you for being here, our guest, and we can't wait to have you back again. And hopefully we'll see you in person soon. We always appreciate our 5-star reviews or any review. If you heard something that you didn't like or we can do better, let us know. Josh at BeAuSm.com or Mark at BeAuSm.com. And this is the traditional way we close, Dave. If you can be anything, be awesome.
Boom.
But we have to remind ourselves that it's not just about being awesome to other people. It's about being awesome to ourselves. So, Dave, you are awesome, my friend.
Yeah, look at this. And look at this. We got a new trademark, right? You are awesome.
Oh, wow.
What size are you, Dave?
What's the AR?
You are.
I mean, what?
Oh, argon. I was like,
oh, wow. Yeah, because I was like, AR.
Oh, we dig deep in our elements.
Yeah.
Arkansas?
Yeah. Argon.
What size are you, Dave?
XX.
XX. We'll get
got it right here.
Well, I appreciate it. I'll wear it with pride. And remember, your ability to endure is always greater than your willingness to endure.
Man, you say it the right way. We appreciate you, man. Thank you so much. Look forward to seeing you again soon, my friend. I got back in Wisconsin in May, so get us lined up for. Actually, we're going to go to the barbecue place because we promised Pops that we'd go there. So I'll see you in May in person, my friend. And
sounds good.
I might be bringing this guy with me.
Fantastic. Love to see you.
Love you, Dave.
All right, see you guys. Bye now.
Bye bye.
Coming to you from underneath a peach blossom. It's time for an episode of BeAuSm. Find positivity throughout your life and work. Just like our mascot rooster, Steve the Jerk.